welcome to a special edition of Darshan America. I'm Sonal Verma.
I'm Shilpa Alimchandani.
I'm Sonya Gavankar.
And I'm Aastha Verma. And this, of course, is our very special show because all four of us co-hosts get together. We get to dress up. So as you can see, we're all in our traditional garb, which I love because it gets a chance to show off the sari and all of our various other traditional outfits that we get to wear.
Well, speaking of saris and dressing up, there is a new generation in India of young women who don't know how to wear the traditional garb, the sari.
I thought that just happened here.
No, I did too. I read a story in the Washington Post that there's a new generation of young women in India. They do not know how to wear a sari because they're so used to wearing Western attire like jeans and T-shirts and dresses and skirts that they haven't learned how to put on a sari. And now the sari is making a comeback in India and around the world. You know, as we've been talking about this for a long time now, how Bollywood is very popular around the world. And because of the images shown on various media outlets and movies and all that, people want to wear the sari. And now these young girls who never showed an interest before in how to put on a sari are in droves going to the sari shops in India and asking their mothers, their aunties, and everybody else to teach them how to put on a sari.
But don't you think, I mean, there's a generational difference here. I mean, certainly even though we grew up here in the U.S., I learned how to wear a sari when I was 13, have been tying them ever since, and draping them on other
than the rest of
And I enjoy it. I mean, it's fun, right? But what strikes me is that this kind of tradition had to go to the West and then circle back to India before the interest grew and young women in India said, hey, I want to know how to do this. I want to be able to drape this on myself or get some kind of shortcut version through a tailor or through some pre-made, pre-draped kind of sari.
Right. I think part of it has to do with, for a long time, they wanted to emulate people outside of India. And so they wanted to show how they could do that and how they could be more Western. And now that people in the West are more interested in their own culture and there's this big spotlight on India, they're like, oh, well, if that's the fashion, that's what I need to do.
But don't you think that young Indian girls are emulating a false sense of what the West is? They're getting things from reality television and television in general, and that's not really how we live our lives. As a first-generation American, I never learned how to wear a sari properly or drape it at all. And I always need help from my family members when I do that. But when I go back to India, my family is still wearing saris, and my cousins, my peers are wearing saris. So I wonder who this class of young Indians are who are not able to wear their own clothing.
Well, there's 2 points here. One, the sari in India used to be an everyday outfit. You know, it used to be your cousin, sister, mothers, everybody wore it. There was no Western outfit. So your house chores were done in a sari. Your babysitting was done in a sari. That is starting to disappear. I think people are adopting easier forms of clothing. You have salwar kurtas, which are far easier. And now you've got jeans. Let's face it, jeans and tees are very popular in India. So house chores, your regular wear saris are not there. Your special occasion saris are there, which maybe is a good thing, because if that's one way to preserve it, then we have to stick with what the fashion trends are. But there's also an economic side to this. You know, it used to be saris used to define where you came from. Regionally in India, there are many kinds of saris, and by wearing a certain kind, people would know you came from this region or that region, and when you travel to that part of the country, you were excited to purchase saris from there because it had special handicraft, or you were supporting the local economies there. So for a while the sari was in a slump, those economies were in a slump too, and this art of creating these saris was dying out in these villages and these rural areas. So I'm glad to see Bollywood make a positive impact in bringing some of those local economies back. But the sad reality is your regular wear everyday house saris, they are starting to disappear. And I think that's the new generation adopting the Western ways out of convenience.
I would say, though, there is an urban-rural divide there.
Exactly.
I mean, most of us have family members in urban India, and so there you are seeing a lot more of the jeans and the T-shirts, you know, not surprisingly. But I would argue probably that in rural India you still have the everyday kind of Indian clothes being worn.
I have family in Mumbai, but they're very traditional, and the girls in my family in Mumbai are not allowed to wear jeans. I mean, their parents, you know, no jeans, no pants. You either wear a salwar kurta or a sari. And that's that family. But on my mother's side in Surat, the women are a little more progressive, and they can wear whatever they want within certain bounds, of course. But you know, it really depends on your socioeconomic level, your education level,
whether you work outside the home,
and also how you are raised. I mean, one side of my family is incredibly traditional, and the other side's a little more progressive.
You know what I like about the sari is that it's a very feminine form of draping. It accentuates all the good stuff and it hides all the bad stuff, which is nice. You know, jeans and tees, they are a masculinization of the female form. And in some sense, you know, I feel more feminine when I wear a sari, and I enjoy that experience of feeling more feminine. So I hope that women at least will, along with working and being equal with men, we preserve our feminine side as well. This is one way to do that.
Isn't there something about Venezuela that we were talking about earlier?
Oh, we were talking about Venezuela and the Miss Venezuela competition.
That's right.
You know I love my pageants. You know, the Miss Venezuela competition is a powerhouse, maybe almost as much as Miss India.
Before we go there, though, I have to mention to our audience, we have two amongst us that are pageant
Should we do the
winners.
secret handshake?
So you know quite a bit about the subject.
I know a little bit about this subject, but not really from the point of Miss Venezuela. The Miss Venezuela competition has back-to-back winners in the past couple of years, and they're always known for winning either Miss World or Miss International or Miss Universe. But the ways that they're winning are taking up some critics with some people because they believe in plastic surgery. Now, the whole concept, to me, of pageants is a chance for young women to improve themselves and to finesse some of maybe their rougher positions. And Miss Venezuela and their competition believe that as well. But they believe heavily in that plastic surgery. And I love this quote from the director of the pageant. He says, "It isn't a natural contest, it's a beauty contest." So
Yeah,
what is
that's
that?
great.
What kind of message is that sending to
That's
young women,
fundamentally
especially
wrong.
in Venezuela?
If you're going to have a competition and it's based on beauty, let it be natural beauty.
Exactly.
Why pollute it, if you will, by having artificial beauty inserted in? We can all go get plastic surgery and enter a contest.
But what does that mean for people who have highlights in their hair, or maybe some brow shaping, or teeth refining, braces? Where do you draw the line?
Well,
Exactly.
my question is, what we talk about steroids in sports, that it's an unfair advantage because it's unnatural. Is this something similar?
I don't know. I mean, I think if it's going to make your ability that much better, whether you're inserting silicone or you're inserting silicone in your body, I mean, there's something happening that's going to